Hey everybody, this is Shred Kid here. I'm trying to do my first ever solo Dota content thing. So what this is going to be is a patch analysis of 6.75, which recently came out like 2 days ago or something. Anyway, it's the first thing I've tried to do on my own. It's the first thing I've been able to record on my own. Maybe it won't be great, maybe there'll be some technical issue, but basically I'm just going to give my thoughts on 6.75 and what's going to change and whatnot. So, the first thing that we see is that Goblin Shredder and Skywrath Mage have been added to Captain's Mode. So, I can't really say if either one of these heroes will be played that much, simply because I haven't played enough Dota 1 recently to be able to say how strong they are. I will say that I love playing Goblin Shredder. I think he's a ton of fun. He's kind of like the Spider-Man of Dota, but can't say if either of them are going to impact the metagame. I know 2009 was really excited about Skywrath Mage, but I can't say if he'll be played either way. So, the first big thing that comes out to me, though, is the Captain's Mode ban phase change. So, you now have 2 bans at the beginning and then 3 bans in the second phase. What this does is I think it's going to force a little bit more innovative play and a little bit more mixing your picks up and trying to counterpick, because with so many heroes that are considered first pickup status, right now, off the top of my head, Naga Siren, DS, Rubik, there are so many, Lycanthrope, there are so many heroes that are so good right now that you're now going to be forced to let some through, which is going to force some teams into trying to figure out how to approach a hero that they feel is very strong in a new way. I think that this is IceFog's way of saying, okay guys, let's try to get some new stuff going on here. And then, of course, the second ban phase is going to be probably more important now, simply because now that banning and picking is going to be a little bit more situational. The 3 bans means that you can get perhaps an extra ban to protect some weird pocket strat that you're going to do, or I don't know. I think banning and picking will get a little bit less standard with this change, which is a good thing. Next thing, glyph duration increased from 4 to 5 seconds. This one's fairly straightforward. It's a nerf to people who can melt towers quickly. And the first 3 that come to mind are Lycanthrope, Leshrac, and Tiny. So it's a nerf to Leshrac's early game simply because if you get 1 less second of edicting the tower, that's actually a lot, you know? Edict does so much damage to towers so fast, and in late game, obviously it's going to be great against stopping that Tiny. You can kill a tower in under 5 seconds anyway. And then, of course, Lycanthrope can just take towers down in no time at all. So it'll give people, you know, that extra second to get the second TP up to defend the tower. So anyway, it's basically just to slow down the people who can melt towers. Enraged Wilkins' Tornado Vision has been decreased from basically being massive to being not so small. This is big. It may not seem so big, but here, I have a Dota map open for this purpose. So a lot of times when you put the Wilkin mid, you might want to send the Tornado, say you're Chen on the Radiant side, and you send the Tornado here. You can spot out maybe somebody waiting to gank your mid who's over there, or maybe sitting over there. The point is, it gives your mid a lot of protection. And that's just in that situation. Say you're trying to push like a tier 3 with it. So you put the Tornado on the tower, and all of a sudden it sees, again, you're Radiant, you put the Tornado over here, and you see the Sand King hiding over here waiting to channel. I mean, there's so many little things that you pick up from it. There's so much tiny information that you are able to see from a Tornado. So most of it is going to mean that pushing is going to be riskier and mid lane is going to be riskier. So it's obviously going to be a nerf to Chen and Enchantress, but it's also a nerf to pushing towers if you have those heroes. Most namely the tier 3. Okay, Aegis Reclamation time has been decreased. This one's, again, seems fairly straightforward to me. It's going to be a lot less risky now. Excuse me, a lot more risky to not use your Aegis. Because what would happen before, if you were winning a game, and there wasn't really any opening to, you know, try to take out an aggressive fight or try to break the enemy's tier 3 tower, you could just say, hey, whatever, we're winning, we'll just sit back on this Aegis, let it run out, take the next Roshan, and then we'll win off of that. However, the fact that it dies now means that your carry is going to be vulnerable to smoke ganks. Maybe you'll get picked off in a fight that you don't want to take, and all of a sudden your Aegis is going to be down. So what it does is it forces teams to act on the Aegis while they have it, because there will be a period in which they don't have it, in which they'll be vulnerable. This is just forcing aggression. Okie doke. Team AoE bounty for kills has been changed. This one, again, seems fairly straightforward to me. It's just a straight buff for, you get more experience for killing heroes. So most of the time when there's 2 or 3 heroes around, it's going to mean that maybe a support helped out with it. So this, to me, seems as if it's going to buff the supports and help them get those levels up just a little bit faster. Because the experience for carrying that is negligible, but for a support it really does mean a lot. And then, while we're on the topic of XP, it seems like it's easier to get to level 7 and 8, but it's not easier to get to level 9. So what this means is heroes who get to 7 or 8 and then stay there are going to be better, seeing as they'll get there earlier. Crystal Maiden is the first one who comes to mind. She kind of gets those levels and doesn't get too many more. Shadow Demon, trying to get that fast level 7, level 8 up so you have the disruption, 1 rank in the poison, and then max your curse. It'll be really good. So those really level independent supports should help out. And when I said the team AoE bounty before, I completely messed that up. I meant to say gold, because that's the gold bounty. Again, it'll be mostly focused on the supports because they'll be the ones who will utilize it. Sorry about that. New loading screen, obviously the most important thing for Dota 2 players. Random draft mode, no big deal. Recipe items no longer sell for 80% of their price. Well, what people used to do is if they're going to die, they buy a bunch of recipes and they sell them and they save gold. It's just an exploit that got taken out. And I think that this is everything that's important. So, 2 new heroes are added. I'm not going to talk about them simply because, I'm not going to talk about them for an extended period of time, simply because I haven't played them in Dota 1 yet, and even if I had played them, I don't feel like I have enough games as them to understand really if they'll be game-changing or not. However, Zed looks like he's a ton of fun. His main thing is his ultimate. You can make a perfect clone that uses your items, which means you are going to want to give him levels, you're going to want to give him farm, because having, say, 2 hexes on a team, or 2 force staffs, or whatever, what have you, is going to be amazing. It'll be so good. I mean, I saw some screenshot that somebody had of, if you get the perfect item set on him, you can get like 27 or whatever minions to control. It's cool. It's very cool. It's like a relevant Epo. But again, I can't say if he'll be played or not. And this Frost guy, again, he looks like a lot of fun. Can't say if he'll be played or not. It'd take me so long to go over it, and I haven't played him enough, so I don't feel like I can speak on him. But, on to heroes that I do know and understand. Alchemist, everybody's kind of hated this hero for a while because it just kind of feels as if he's underpowered, he doesn't fit the current metagame, he needs too much time to farm up his stuff, but that's been changed. So, if we look at it, his acid spray's been buffed at low levels. 1, it does more damage at low levels, and 2, the mana cost is also lower at the low levels. So, this is actually going to help a lot in his laning stage, because normally on Alchemist there's 2 builds that you do. You do the max, for example, if the lane is hard, you just max your acid spray, get 1 in stun, 1 in greed. But if the lane's easy, you want to max greed and get maybe 1 in spray, 1 in his stun, or maybe even 2 in spray, whatever. But the point is, spray is going to be a lot better at those low levels, so it gives him a lot more to lane with. If he already has an easy lane, it makes his lane better. Basically, it means that you can go into the greed build, but still have some harass in lane that you can spam out. The BAT buff on the Chemical Rage, I think he's got, that's a 1.0 base attack time in the final rank. That's so good. That's obviously geared toward his late game. Goblin's Greed just got a straight buff. It means he'll farm faster. This ability's been getting buffed forever. I mean, at this point, it should just be so good. What is it? The numbers exactly are 10 plus 4 on the max rank. And this is the big one. This is what people have been waiting for. The Unstable Concoction no longer displays a countdown to enemies. So when you come out of fog with it above your head, they don't know if they have to stun you immediately or if they have some time. Or basically, it's less information that the enemy sees, so you should be able to get the stun off a little bit more frequently. Also, it's now AoE, so even if it stuns yourself, you can stun other people with it. I mean, I can already imagine myself right now doing a stupid pub build where you get a dagger on Alchemist and you charge up the stun, and then you blink into a group of people and stun everybody. It's not good, but the point is, I think Alchemist might see some play as a situational carry. Don't get me wrong, he's obviously not going to be core, he's not like top band first pick, but he might be picked every once in a blue moon now, as opposed to just never. Anyway, Anti-Mage. Movement speed decreased from 320 to 315. This is big. You wouldn't think it would be necessarily so important because it's only 5 movement speed, but when Anti-Mage is in a lane, he's usually laned in the safe lane with the support with him, or even 2 supports with him, and it's usually against one person. So one of the reasons why it's so hard to lane against an Anti-Mage, as say a solo Windrunner, solo Beastmaster, whatever, is the fact that Anti-Mage is so fast, and he's so mobile, so that if you push up at all, he'll run up, hit you once or twice, blink, hit you 2 or 3 times, and at that point he's burned a lot of your mana, he's done a lot of damage to you, and it's just so hard to lane against that. With the movement speed going down, maybe it means that he'll get an extra 1 fewer swipe in, 1 less swipe in, when he's trying to auto you out of lane. So I don't necessarily see this affecting his mid game or late game, but it means that his laning stage isn't quite as ridiculous if you're trying to solo against him, and he has the support. Blink animation time increased. This one's easy. Even pros sometimes mess up and chain stuns trying to kill him, like Shadow Demon to Leshrac or whatever, because it's such a small window of time. So I think he's trying to make it just a little bit easier to chain stun him. And of course, the most important one is the leg decrease. If you haven't seen Bruno, shout out to him. That was my favorite part of the International too. Okie doke. Axe, honestly, I don't see any of this as a major change. The armor increased from 30 to 40. At that point, there's so much it barely even matters. The slow decrease from 10 to 8 is just, it seems like a nerf at first, and it is, but then if you look at the movement bonus increase from 4 to 8 per affected enemy, that's a lot. So this is, while the enemies won't be going as slow, your team will be moving a lot faster. And Counter Helate's got a late game buff, which isn't, or mid-late, whatever, which I don't think is necessarily that relevant. It's nice, but it's not game-breaking. We'll still see Axe as a situational pick, but it's not going to change anything. Some teams like to whip him out every once in a blue moon. So, Apparition. This is a really interesting change. Chilling Touch has finally been made into an ability that makes sense. People have been skipping this ability for so long on him. I mean, Ice Rock had to remake it. So, first of all, you now get to use the damage against creeps, which means it's relevant in the laning stage. That is, if you're trying to either farm as a mid-apparition, which has been out of style for about a year now, I think. But it's kind of like a free refraction, because the damage has been increased. You now get 50, 60, 70, 80 damage per rank. And the duration is, well, it's a little bit shorter now, but if you're using it on creeps, it doesn't matter. So, I don't think, and I can't say this for certain, but I don't think people are going to play him mid anymore, simply because he doesn't fit like the mid powerhouse theme right now. And if tri-lanes make a big comeback, we might see him every now and then as a solo mid, but I don't think he'll be taken as a solo mid. I just think the biggest thing is that people will level Chilling Touch on him now. Either it'll help you push faster, or it'll help you lane better. Say you're in a 2v1 lane and you're trying to get your carry to get a little bit of extra base damage. Not base damage, but you know what I mean. Anyway, he'll still be seen occasionally. Bane Elemental. Enfeeble can no longer be dispelled is the big one. Nothing else really matters. Okay, Batrider. This is cool. This is cool. So, Batrider's one of my favorite heroes, if not my favorite, and he didn't necessarily translate that all that well at the beginning of Dota 2, but he's been kind of fixed in Dota 2 since then, and with this host of buffs, I think that we're actually going to be able to start seeing him in competitive play. So, the first one, and I think this is actually the most important one, is the cast animation time's been decreased from 0.3 to 0.2. Here's why this is important. You use a cast on Bat like every 2 seconds, every 3 seconds, whatever, because you're spamming napalm so much. It does get to be a little bit annoying that you're chasing someone and you gotta stop, cast a spell, stop, cast a spell, so on and so forth. But with the cast animation time being cut down by so much, that's such a huge buff for someone who's always casting. And while you think, oh, 0.1 seconds, no big deal, well, if you cast it 10 times in a fight, it ends up being a big deal. Strength growth. This is big. You get an extra 0.7 strength growth per level. One of the reasons why this is so important is because Batrider doesn't normally build strength items. Most of the time, what he does is Tranquil Boots into Oblink Dagger, and from there you either go into some combination of BKB, which is like the only strength item that you'll get, Boots of Travel, which don't help you tank, or Force Step, which doesn't help you tank. Point is, you're not going to have a whole lot of survivability items. Maybe you'll make a pipe, but either way, you're not. It's not like he's making Vanguard Hood at every game, or like Vanguard Hood Power Treads or something. You don't have strength on him. You just don't build it, because other stuff is just so dang good. So this is going to help him a lot in his mid to late game, especially when you're trying to get those big luxury items up, which will help you in the team fights. I think it'll help a lot. The turn rate improvement's nice because you spend so much time turning around trying to kill people. Duration increase, kind of nice. I don't think it's that big of a deal though, simply because Batrider doesn't die that much. At least he shouldn't. And same thing, or I'm sorry, that was the damage trail no longer instantly disappearing when he dies. It's not a huge deal. It means that if you get jumped on at the beginning of a team fight as like you're the first target, sure, the fire will stay on the ground. And maybe this might make people want to skill E a little bit higher, because right now most people get like 1 or 2 in E and then max the nuke, but I don't think it'll change anything. Point is, I think Batrider is going to be played, especially as a counter to Templar Assassin, with these buffs. Not all the time, not first pick, first ban or anything, but he'll be played some. The biggest thing though is that I'm really happy about it. So, Bloodseeker. This is a hero that a lot of people has been felt really useless. They felt that he's useless for a really long time. So the Bloodbath detection is just a small buff, but the Blood Rage bonus, not really a huge thing. Here's the big change. It's the Thirst. So you now get a constant 600 or 6,000 range on the Thirst AoE from all levels, which is a big deal, because if you're laning mid as Bloodseeker, which is how people normally lane him, the enemy jungle is within, and this is from a pup perspective, by the way. I still don't think he's going to be seen in competitive ever. The enemy jungle is going to be 6,000 units away. And in pubs, a lot of times, what happens that isn't in competitive is you see low HP heroes who jungle, like HP-reliant junglers such as Axe, such as, say, Ursa, Skeleton King. Darkshear's the main one that is done in competitive, but he's usually long lane. So the point is, if you're mid, you pick up 1 rank in it, and you'll probably be able to see them. Even though it got changed to be 20% at rank 1 and 30% at 2, a lot of times when you're jungling as those heroes, you get below that point of HP. So Batrider just comes running at you, kills you, and then leaves. So, I don't know. I think it's a nice buff for him in mid lane. It means he'll be able to pick up some easy kills on enemy junglers, but that's it. Okie doke. Bristleback. So, he's not in Dota 2 yet. I think he's a fun hero. He hasn't been played in a really long time, but Bristleback is one of the best answers to Undying, who's been circulating in the past couple months as a niche pickup. You do an aggressive tri-lane with Dirge, or you do a safe lane farming Dirge, and you just go for an all-in timing push at around the 20 to 30 minute mark. And that's when he's the very, very strongest, because you can't really kill the zombies. It's hard to kill a tombstone, and it'll be so freaking tanky. It's just brutal to try and deal with. So, anyway, one answer for Undying is Bristleback, because Bristleback's Quill Spray kills the zombies, which is a very important thing when you're fighting Undying. In fact, that's probably Bristleback's main niche in the metagame right now, is the fact that he kills zombies. So the damage cap has been increased from 220 to 400, which is very nice. It means that he'll be able to deal more damage in extended team fights. I've always felt that Bristleback's issue is that unless you get a Radiance, there isn't really a reason to focus him, even with Quill Spray. But with the damage increase, perhaps there might be a reason to focus him, and you can just build pure tank instead of going into that Radiance, which is really substandard on him anyway. So I like it a lot. I think it gives people a reason to focus him, and maybe even a reason to pick him, although I doubt it. Okie doke. Broodmother. I mean, this is a hero that Ice Rock's been tweaking forever now. Just trying to get the bounty right on those Spiderlings and Spiderites, but I think 16 to 21 for Spiderites is getting to be a lot. So if you're laning against a Morphling, a Windrunner, a Beastmaster, whatever, if you get sloppy with your Spiderites for like 1 second, all of a sudden you can feed the enemy like 100, 200 gold. So it just rewards good play and kind of punishes Broodmother for trying to push really aggressively against AoE, which I don't think she should be able to, and Ice Frog doesn't either, so not a big thing. Centaur. Double Edge now deals its damage in an AoE around the target. Well, I don't know. I don't know if Centaur's going to be played. I don't think it's a big enough change to warrant him being played. But it's a nice change. I like that it's AoE now. He's not just kind of like a one-and-done type hero. He uses his skills on the target, so... Okay. I saw this and I was really excited because I am super sick of getting stunned by Chaos Knight and not being able to Manta him. So, you can now dodge the Chaos Knight stun. This means maybe with Disruption, maybe with whatever. But the big thing, and I'll get to this when I get to Luna, is that Manta can now dodge Chaos Bolt stun, which is, I think, very important, and we'll get to why later. But point is, it's not a major thing. It's not like he's not going to be picked anymore because of it. He's still obviously very strong, but it's just something that's nice to be able to work with. Chen, okay. This is big. This is a game changer. So, Chen's been maybe first ban phase and usually picked up in most games or banned in most games for a long time now. One of the reasons why he's picked up all the time is because obviously, yeah, he can jungle, yeah, he can push well, but the most annoying thing in dealing with Chen is his sustainability. Or the sustainability he gives his team. So if you're trying to push, say you're trying to push with the Chen, and your allies get in trouble, you have two heals for them. One's going to be mech, one's your ult, and then you can send someone back who gets low. So the enemy uses a bunch of stuff on, say, your Invoker. They use all their stuns and damage on him. You send him back to base, he TPs back into your tier 1 tower, and he keeps fighting. So the fact is, though, Holy Persuasion is better at higher ranks. Because if we look at it now, the delay is per level 6, 5, 4, 3. Chen gets level 7 usually, maybe level 8, and then he stops leveling so fast because he's with his team almost all the time. So, when you're at a lowish level, so say you're at level 6 or 7, right now, before this patch, you'd be able to, at level 7, you'd be able to send someone home in 3 seconds. However, at level 7 after this patch, you're only going to have 2 ranks in Test of Fate. And what this means is that it's going to take like twice as long to send someone home. It's going to take 5 seconds. So at level 8, then it's going to take 4 seconds, and then at level 9, you finally get it down to 30. Point is, Chen kind of stops leveling at around that point as fast as he does before, and it really is going to help you be able to chew through his team, and it kind of cuts down on the sustainability in team fights that he gives his team, because, hey, maybe you can actually kill people before he saves them now. I don't know. Point is, he's still going to be picked, but it's just going to be a little bit harder for him to save people, especially with the way his level timing works. So, Clinks doesn't matter. Clockwork. I still don't think Clockwork's going to be picked, but with all his buffs, the big one is the mana drain and damage on power cogs goes up from 150 to 200 at the max rank. Duration increases, but when someone tries to force staff you out of it, which is just like what you do against Clockwork, it's so easy to deal with that, it burns it. And so they're going to take 200 damage and burn 200 mana. And that's a big deal, simply because that's a lot of mana. So even if, say, he goes on your Windrunner, and she force staffs herself out immediately, it's whatever. Right now, you just, okay, Clockwork initiated, we back up, we don't care about it. But now, if you're forced to fight with 200 less mana on, like, Invoker or Windrunner, any force staff carrier, really, it's going to be hard, and you're going to run out of spells, so... Okay. CM Freezing Field Duration increased. This is a late game buff, because you're probably not going to get it all for the entire duration early game anyway. But either way, it's a nice change. It already deals so much damage to begin with. It's just, you normally get stunned out of it. So I think it's just a bigger incentive to focus her. Like, you now have to get her with a stun. And I think people might start taking the ult at level 6 now because of this. Because simply, before with rank 1, maybe if you got the entire thing off, it's whatever, it's rank 1. But now for 7 seconds, if you don't stun her out of it, and she channels it for 7 seconds, you're going to take so much damage. So anyway, it's a buff, and people might start taking it at 6. Darkseer. This is a big one. because this hero's first ban, first pick right now. Movement speed decreased. This is going to make it harder for him to long lane. You think, hey, why would that matter? He has permanent haste. Well, the way the long lane Darkseer works is basically you run away as Darkseer from the enemy supports until they stun you or disrupt you or whatever. And once that happens, then you haste yourself and then you run away unimpeded. However, if they're able to get more hits in while you're waiting for them to stun, because you're a little bit slower, you're going to take a lot more harass and it's going to be a lot harder for you to lane. So it's a fairly significant change. It's not game-breaking, but it's a nice way to kind of nerf his laning a little bit. Cooldown increased from 16 to 19. That's really good because Vacuum's a really good ability. Cast range decreased. It's not a big deal, but it does mean he has to be more close and personal. AoE decreased. It's a very small change. But this is a big one. You can't vacuum BKB people anymore, and that's huge. For every BKB carry, really. I think CK, Shadow Fiend isn't relevant right now, but it's important for him. Basically, this is a buff to BKB carries and a nerf to Darkseer. He's still going to be, I think, first ban, first pick, but he's going to be just a little bit weaker. Anyway, on to Dazzle. Nice cooldown reduction at Poison Touch level 4. That's it. I don't know. I don't think it's really going to change anything. It actually gives him a little bit more stun, which is his problem as a support, in that he doesn't really have any disables, but that's the big thing, at least. If you can give him at least a little bit more CC in team fights, maybe he'll be a little bit more useful, but Icewag doesn't usually like to make everybody a generic copy of each other, so the fact that he's a support who doesn't really have that much CC just kind of means that he's more of a niche pick. He's never going to be a stable pick, I think, at least in the current metagame. Static Storm got buffed by a tiny bit. Not a big deal. Okay, Doombringer. This is huge. So, you can now devour any creeps at any levels. So, two things came to mind instantly when I saw this. One, he's going to be better as a mid now. Why? Wildkins. That's why. Or two, level advantage. So, say you're going mid as the Radiant. We'll say you're on the Radiant side. So, oops, this game is not paused. But, so you're chilling over here by your tower, and you go over here and say you find a Centaur or something. I don't know. Something nice. Centaur is going to give you a ton of levels at level 1. A Wildkin is going to be honestly your ultimate goal because you can come out with that extra armor. And with that extra, I think it's 3, it might be 2, but I think it's 3 armor. That solves a lot of your laning issues. So, I don't know. I think it's a really big deal for him going mid because if you get that Wildkin, your armor issues are solved. And even if you don't get it, you're going to get so much of an EXP advantage. What you do is you just push the lane up a little bit, back up, chomp the big creep, go back to lane. It's that simple. And you're going to get an EXP advantage on everyone. And what this means is that you're always consistently going to be able to, as long as you don't get ganked, you're going to be able to do the level death Doom combo to someone. So if you prefer to get 2 ranks in level death, which some people like to do, you're almost certainly going to be able to Doom them and then hit them with the level 5 level death. Or you can go for the 1 and go for the 6 and hitting them at 6, but either way, you will out-level them. So, that's point 1. Point 2, I think he might be able to jungle now. I haven't tested it out, but here's the good ones to jungle with. You can get the Wildkin, and you can do the thing that Chen and Enchantress like to do, where they stack the creeps a bunch of times, and they back off a little bit, and channel the tornado at it. So say if you have, like a support stack of really strong creep camp for you over and over and over, you come, chomp on the Wildkin, stand back a little bit, and tornado all of them. That's like, boom, 600 gold. Point 2, you can get the Ogres. So if you devour the Ogre with the Frost Nova thing, maybe you'll be able to jungle a little bit better simply because you won't take as much damage and it slows their attack speed down. I don't know. Either way, I'm going to want to try it out. And the other huge change, which honestly I didn't like, but it is a buff, is that the level death now deals 20% of max HP instead of a fixed now. This is a huge late game buff, like massive, because late game, it's like why even bother casting it? It does no damage, so they're carried. But obviously now it's a huge deal if you can land on their carry. And ultra late game, when everybody's going to be 25, boom, it's going to hurt so much. But the issue is, and why I didn't like it as much, is it kind of rolls back on your early mid-game power, where, say you're level 9, 10-ish, and all the enemy supports like 5, 6, maybe 4, whatever. You got a lot of levels, you're starting to get your momentum up, and they don't really have any levels yet. This is when you run around killing everything. And I feel like right now, 20% of max HP is somebody who has 600 HP, not that much. So while it's a buff, don't get me wrong, it is a buff. It's a nerf to his early mid-game and his mid-game. Okay. And also, Scorched Earth finally got changed back, so now it is back up to 30, so it's just straight better. Expect Doom to be played some. I'm going to mess around with the mid, see how fast I can get levels up. I'm going to mess around with him in the jungle, but keep him on your watch list. Okie doke. Dragon Knight. Massive passives, or massive bonuses in the passive. Get 12 armor at max rank. Armor decreased by 1, whatever, it's just to make up for that. But the big thing is that the splash area has been rescaled for 2 to 3, and honestly the only one that really matters of that is the Ice Dragon form. So, you get a little bit more splash AoE on the 100%, a lot more for the 75%, and the 50% is the same. So, it's just going to be dealing more damage. It just deals more damage and it's harder to kill. So, Drow Ranger, doesn't matter what buff she's get, she's going to be useless until farming comes back into style. Because with no disables, no escape, not really good at carrying, she'll be a niche pick in like a weird silencing lineup. So you might see her once every 1,000 games or something, but she's not going to get played. Enchant Totem cooldown decreased. This is to prevent your stuff from getting stolen from Rubik, I think. It's a nerf to Rubik, more than a buff to it, yes. Okay, so, Ember Spirit. From what I understand, and I haven't played him enough in Dota 1 to comment on it, he's very, very good in Dota 1. I played him a little bit, I thought he was fun, I did well with him, but people have told me that he's imbalanced. I can't comment on this because I haven't played him, but he has been nerfed. And some people I talked to who are still actively playing Dota 1 says this is stuff that he needed. So while I wish I could be more knowledgeable about this, I'm not right now. Anyway. Oh, Enigma got some huge buffs, but we'll get to them later. So, Enigma. Malefice damage reduced. That's good. That spell dealt too much damage, to be honest, for being such a good stun. It's not really a huge thing. It's kind of going to weaken him a tiny bit, but if someone's getting stunned by Enigma, they're probably going to die. Midnight Pulse cast range increased. It's kind of nice. Black Hole mana cost increased. Okay, here's what the mana cost means. A lot of times on Enigma, you're going to want to get, say, a Basilius for early pushing if your carries doesn't or can't get one. And then a lot of times people like to pick up a medallion on him. So they do a Basilius medallion build. And by a lot of times I mean it's actually kind of rare. But what this means is that you can't do this anymore. Simply because with the mana cost increase on Black Hole, you need the Soul Ring to enable to actually get your stun, Eidolons, and Black Hole off in a fight. I think you're still able to do it if you start at full mana, but the point is, you're going to want to get the Soul Ring, which means it's either going to push your mech back, push your dagger back, whatever you're getting, if you want to get that medallion, or you just do the standard Soul Ring build. So, anyway. It's a bigger nerf than it looks. Faceless Void can no longer be frozen by any Chronosphere. This is good, because a lot of times what Faceless Voids have had to do recently against Rubik's is you pop the ult and then you leap immediately, even if you go nowhere, just so that he can't steal it. But now if he steals it and gets you in it, it's like, uh-oh, because it's your time to get a double extended Chronosphere and just go to work. It's a good change, because honestly, Faceless Void just did not work against Rubik with the way Spellsteal works. And it's honestly the problem with Rubik as a hero is that it forces every other hero's balance to be determined around him. So, even more so than other heroes. But anyway, I digress. Furion buffed, oh thank God he wasn't buffed. Furion nerfed, and there are two nerfs that have been a long time coming. Issue 1, when Furion offlanes, a lot of times it's just really, really safe for him because he can pull with his Treants. However, with the magic resistance going down, it means it's going to be a lot easier for supports to kill his Treants before he can successfully pull the creep wave, which means it's going to be harder for him to offlane. Point 2, he can't run away. I kind of talked about this with Darkseer. He can't run away if he's getting gone on by the offlane support, or the enemy's safe lane support, as easily just with the movement speed nerf. That's the big one. Okie doke. Goblin Shredder. I love playing this hero all 3 times that I've played him. I already mentioned that I can't talk about him though. So he does need to be in the middle of everything though, just as the way the hero works. So the strength growth reduced. Seems like he was fairly strong. Guardian Wisp, this isn't really a big deal at all. Just makes you heal your ally a little bit more. I'm surprised that he got buffed actually, but whatever. Okie doke, okie doke. So Gyrocopter. This is the biggest one, the movement speed buff. Here's why. Gyrocopter is unique, I think, in the entire pool of heroes in that he can dive a tier 2 tower at like 2 to 3 minutes and get away with it. Here's why. Say you're in the safe lane, so we're going to be Radiant for this example. Let's say we're in the Radiant safe lane, okay? Oops, the creeps destroy the tower. So he's chilling over here with an allied Venomancer. He's against, say, a solo Windrunner, whatever. Windrunner's kind of pushed up. He throws a rocket at her. So she's running away, and he's chasing her. So it gets to where the enemy tower would be. The rocket hasn't hit yet, and it starts to tank the tower, and it's like, oh, whatever, it's going to be killed. What you are able to do at this point is throw another rocket at her because of the cooldown, and chase her all the way to this tower or even further. This is a big deal because he can dive like no other, because the rocket tanks the tower for him. It's like, it's no big deal, it's risk free. So this is before supports are going to be able to TP in. Honestly, it just improves his kind of role as a safe laner who can really kill offlaners really, really well. And obviously he has to be in range in order to hit his other nuke, but point is, that's the most important buff. Obviously the flat cannon and call down are nice, but they're not game changers. Huskar. You can now kill yourself through BKB, that's important. You can now, with Aghanims, hold people on a 4-second cooldown, which is very cool, but he's still not going to be played because he's Huskar. Oh well. Invoker. Okay, this is really, really important. And okay, I'll try to keep this brief because it kind of sets off a chain reaction of what has to happen. So, base damage decreased by 4. So you have 2 options. You have 2 options with Invoker. Option 1, going the Exort build. And if you go the Exort build, this isn't going to be an issue, because your base damage is going to be so good anyway. However, let's talk about the Quas Wex build, because this is where the issue comes in. Right now, Quas Wex build is almost universally preferred, simply because it just does more. Obviously, it can't help in your other lanes as early, but it's just almost universally better. So, the issue with that is you don't have a lot of last hitting base damage. So, the point of this nerf is that if you go into the QW build, you are forced to go into the item build, which is Blades of Attack first. Here's what this does. There are certain mids that you can't get away with this build against. Queen of Pain is the most noted one. Rubik is also up there. Point is, you need to get some regen against them if you're doing the QW build. Otherwise, you're forced into too many points of Q, and you'll actually lose the lane early. So, what this does is it really either A, forces him into Q, which decreases his killing power, because you'll have less in W mid-game, or he doesn't get forced into Q, but he does the build where he buys a Salve and a Tango. And what that does is that means he can't last it. So, it's kind of pick your poison. Anyway, that's actually big. That's important. Oh, I did not mean to click on that, but that's important. Jakiro, everybody's favorite dragon. Ice Path has been reworked. It is now less crappy. It's pretty straightforward to me. I mean, he throws out the Ice Path. If you touch it, you get stunned. It's just better now. Something that I think that Jakiro's been really underutilized with is that him and Naga Siren, I think, have so much synergy together, simply because his spells are absolutely amazing if you're able to land them. Naga Siren lets you land all your spells, just saying, but I don't know. I'd like to see more Jakiro. I feel like he's a pretty decent hero who's just not utilized. Okay, Juggernaut. He's going to be slightly better late game with that BAT buff, but also a lot better mid game, because now you're not going to waste all your slashes on some neutrals in the forest, which is great. It really is. Wow, it's really hard talking for this long. Wow, and I'm not even halfway through. Okay. Let me get a quick drink of water. Okay, so Keeper of the Light. So his biggest issue at low levels was that Chakra mana cost, if you wanted to use it on his carry, and say you only had like one rank in it, you actually burn through your mana using Chakra over and over. With it nerfed at lower levels, or buffed at lower levels, excuse me, I keep messing those two words up. It's much easier to sustain the mana on yourself and your carry, even if it's the rank 1, rank 2 one, which is, it kind of suggests that you can go into the Blinding Light build a little bit more easily, which is really good against carries such as, say, Anti-Mage, whatever, or, excuse me, the Mana Leak build, which is really good against carries such as Anti-Mage, Lycanthrope, people who are very mobile. So, that's the big one. Crovulus, okay. This is, I think, like the best buff that she could have gotten. So, Crobulus's issue in the mid lane is that her animation is so bad that if you try to trade harass with people, you're going to lose, simply because they're going to get more hits on you. Here's why that sucks. When you're trying to play Cropulus, a lot of times you're going to push the lane out to try to get the runes, or even as a virtue of how you farm creeps with her, you use your nuke. If you're going to push the lane, it's a lot easier for the enemy to harass you because they'll have the high ground advantage. So, this is the issue that all of her laning revolves around. However, with the little extra armor buff, she'll be able to survive that harass just a little bit better, so I think it's pretty nice. Kunkka, watch out for him in the next patch, because I think he's going to be played. Base strength increased by 3, that's pretty nice. However, the big one is the Ghost Ship. One, the AoE got a little bit bigger, but the cooldown's so much better. It went from 90, 80, 70 to a 60, 50, 40. 40 seconds, that's like, you can use it in like ganks on one hero late game. You don't have to like save it for a big team fight or whatever. It's now like a ganking tool. I think of it like Firefly. It's a 40 second. It's like, it can be used in ganking, and then you use it in the next team fight, so... Anyway, Legion Commander, wish I could speak more on him. Haven't played him enough to know if he's balanced or not. But it looks like he's just getting some tweaking going on, so I don't know. Leshrac. Okay, this is big. This is real big, because everybody hates Leshrac. One of Leshrac's issues was that Edict was so good. So, if you were, say, trying to race him to a rune, he just turns on Edict and kills you, or say you're, and this is the big one, because right now he's really played as a supporting your safe lane. The biggest issue is, say he's trying to chase an enemy offlaner, like Windrunner, out of lane. So we'll go to the map. Say we're on the Radiant side with our Leshrac, and the enemy Windrunner's on the Dire. She's over here. What Leshrac can do is run at her with Edict on,
your bottom tower
and
is injured.
She doesn't gain any ground when he turns on Edict, because he just sticks with her the entire time, or Beastmaster, whoever. Because there is no cast animation, he
Your
just
bottom
sticks
tower
with
is
him,
under
and they get
attack.
most of the damage off. So, it's a big deal, because it means that he can't do that as easily anymore. It's a buff to every offlaner, really, and a big nerf to Leshrac, so that's good. I'm happy. It's a good thing. Lich buffed. Who would have thunk that they'd see the day when Lich gets buffed? But he has been. So it's kind of nice, simply because he's not really used at all anymore. Lena buffed, not a big deal. She's better at low levels with the Laguna Blade cooldown being lower, but it's good. Lion, I was kind of confused about these changes, because to me, I don't think they fixed his main issues. Okay, so let's just take a look at this, read it through, because there's a lot of number tweaking. Finger of Death cooldown is now lower at higher levels and higher at lower levels. So that obviously suggests that you should get to a higher level. The damage has been increased at the lower levels, just to make up for the fact that it's a higher cooldown now. I think that this is a buff, or excuse me, a nerf, simply because it doesn't need to be that high. If you're using it at a low level, the person's going to die anyway. Mana drain cast, that doesn't matter, but either way, Lion is now more level dependent, which I don't know if it's the right path for him. I actually think this may have hurt him more than it helped him. Lone Druid, Spirit Bear can no longer be resummoned when he's taking damage. Thank God. Here's what that can do. One, if you're in the off lane, say we're playing Radiant
Your middle tower is under attack.
Lane,
how could you let that happen?
or Radiant Windrunner, and we have a safe lane Syllabear. A lot of times the Syllabear will pull the creeps to you to help you get a safer lane at the beginning. But if you try to do that now, you can't do it if it's being attacked. So if you get like a Venomancer down, you can just kill it without him being able to resummon it for his safe lane. So it's a real nice change. Obviously, you can't resummon it if, say, they're trying to kill it. If you get to the late game part where it just dies, it's a good change. Lord of Avernus, this means nothing. He's still irrelevant. I still think of him as one of the worst heroes in the game. He doesn't really fit a role concretely. Anyway, Luna, this is a big deal. And I'm going to reference the CK thing. Moonglaive level 4 bounce count is now up to 5. And here's the deal. A lot of times when Luna is picked, she'll be picked as like a 4th or 5th draft. At least this is in my experience. And what happens is the enemy team has a CK, and you're starting to think, oh no, guys, we need a carry, but how are we going to clear these CK illusions? We need to get rid of them, otherwise they're going to destroy us. We don't have a lot of AoE. Here we go. Luna's the answer to that a lot of times, because what happens is the Moonglaives just kind of clear as illusions. It's really nice. But remember when I mentioned the CK stun being dodgeable now, being a really big buff for Luna? Well, Luna's somebody who likes to build Manta style. So what happens sometimes when you pick Luna against CK is you just get 4-seconded at the beginning of the fight and then you die. However, now that it's dodgeable, there really isn't any reason to get initiated on with a 4-second stun unless you severely get outplayed. But point is, she's much better against CK. Lycanthrope. Okay. This is a game changer. This is honestly probably the biggest deal. Okay, so let me get a drink of water real quick because I'll be talking on this one for a while. Okie doke. So, anyway, right now, Lycanthrope is considered one of the most powerful heroes in the game. I think everybody agrees on this, from low level to high level, to pub to competitive, from China to America. Everybody agrees that Lycanthrope is ridiculous. Why? One, he can jungle completely risk-free and pretty much faster than anybody else. Two, because of the way his jungle works, even if you harass him, he can always catch up really, really fast. Three, he can tear through Roshan. And then you get into the stuff like he'll be able to split push really well and has a ton of DPS. But let's talk about the first 3 points that I brought up. So, one of Lycan's issues is that if you can force him to waste his wolves at really low levels, he can't get them back out again because they do cost a lot of mana. And now that they cost him more mana, it's even better. Because if you can get him to waste wolves really early, like say you're playing Enchantress and he gets his wolves out, he's ready to go, he's got his wolves out, he's ready to take out the first camp, and you play Enchantress, you take his first wolf, you kill the second wolf with it. What's he gonna do? Either way, he's not able to spam them as frequently. So this is a jungle nerf. Point 2. This is honestly the biggest thing. The Spirit Wolf HP has been decreased. It's basically been halved, at least at the low levels. This is huge because it means you can't take out medium camps or big camps unless it's the weak satyrs in the medium camp. And you can't take out big camps at all. Point is, what you used to not be able to do against Lycan was just ward his easy camp. You couldn't get away with it. So what happens is, you ward his camp, and he's like, whatever, I'll just do the medium camp, and then I'll come back, and basically, it barely even affects him. I mean, you can't stop him by warding his easy camp. So, how are you going to deal with him? Well, now if you ward his easy camp, it does kind of deal with him, because he can't do other camps. So, maybe this is going to, I don't know, force him to go a lot slower in his jungle. I mean, obviously, if you don't touch him in the jungle, and just leave him completely alone, it's not going to be, his jungle won't be affected that much. But if you do mess with him, all of a sudden his wolves just die. I mean, you can't really get new ones out as fast because of the mana cost, and it's going to be hard for him in the jungle if he gets harassed. And this is a very good thing because everybody is sick of this hero. Doesn't affect how fast he pushes really, simply because you still have the crazy DPS, you still have the max move speed, but it's brutal if you're playing Lycan and they mess with you in your jungle for like 5 to 10 minutes straight. It'll be hard to do. So, this is a good thing. This is a game changer. I do not think that he will be first pick, first ban anymore. I don't think he will be. I think he'll be a good hero, but he will not be broken anymore. And I think that I can safely say that he was broken. Magnus. The agi growth from being increased makes it clear that Ice Rock wants to see him as more of a late game hero unless it's a utility. The cleave is obviously supposed to go on himself, not other people, so we now see that Ice Rock wants to see him as the carry. So, Murloc, this doesn't matter. Medusa, this doesn't matter. I mean, she got better in lane and better ultra late game, but the point is she's irrelevant. Meepo, doesn't matter how good you make him, he'll still be Meepo and therefore bad. I mean, he got a little bit tankier with the stat sharing. The DPS increase is a little thing, but it's no big deal. Okay, Potom. This is cool. Okay, so one of the hardest decisions to make as Priestess of the Moon, Mirana, that is whether to arrow before a fight starts. That is, you know a fight's going to break out in like 30 seconds, say. Maybe 20 seconds, maybe 15, whatever. Point is, it's going to break out soon, but you see an enemy by himself and you have the high ground. Do you arrow him or not? Pros, if you hit the arrow on him, you're going to kill him and then win the fight. Cons, you miss the arrow on him, you won't have the arrow up for the fight. 5 second stun that's not going to be in a fight is kind of a big deal. So, with this cooldown reduction, I think you'll be able to go for the arrow and then go and use it in the fight anyway. So it just encourages aggression on Potom. Will we see her more? No. Is she better? Absolutely. And the Starfall buff is kind of nice because she starts, before she really gets her first item up, whether you go for Diffusal or Mantha, she does have trouble killing people solo. So Starfall is nice. I mean, that is after, when her nukes start to fall off before she gets her items up most of the time. So it's nice that one of her nukes has been buffed. Morphling. Game changer. This is big. Cast animation's higher. That's great. Morphling mana cost increased. This might force him to get a Linken's, to be honest. You might not be able to get away with just doing the Ethereal Blade first anymore. Simply because for 30 mana a second, you can't really morph your way out of every single gank anymore. And I think if he's forced into Linken's, it takes away a lot of his ridiculous mid-game power. But you can still do it. That is, get Ethereal, it's just not quite as good. This is the big one. Well, there's two, but the big one for me is the base damage decrease. Because a lot of what's been happening recently is Morphlings start with Morph at level 1. And they morph up a ridiculous amount of last hit damage, and they go mid lane. We saw this so much in the International, and they just outlast hit you. And with waveforms, if you push up, you get waveformed on an auto attack 3 times, and it's like, oh, that was half my health, and I'm playing Queen of Pain. This is stupid. However, with the base damage decrease, it means that if you actually do that morph, you've got to go a little bit extra to get what you would have had before in terms of last hit damage, which means you're going to be so squishy. Basically, you'll have 6 less strength, which is, what, like 100 extra HP, a little bit more? Point is, I don't think you can go mid as Morphling anymore. Or if you do go mid, I don't think you can do more first. And your last hitting damage is going to be so affected in a negative way. It'll just be hard to deal with. So, the AoE decrease on waveform is good. It's just been so big. It's like you can miss someone, or not waveform close to them for a kill, and it's like, oh, cool, I got the kill. And the attacking before waveform, or attacking while in waveform, is really nice because it means that your harass potential is really mitigated, especially in mid lane or safe lane, where you waveform past somebody and start attacking. Basically, you get an extra auto on them, so your harass has been lessened. But this is the big one. The best way to safely use Ethereal Blade was to start the waveform, Ethereal while in it, hit them with the nuke, and then get out immediately. Good Morphling players could do this before the waveform even finished. You can't do it anymore. So if you wanna kill them, you actually have to finish the waveform. This is big because it means that maybe you'll get, Beastmaster board or something. I don't know. But these were some much needed nerfs on Morphling. He'll still be played. He's not as broken anymore. Naga Siren. Okay. This isn't quite a big a deal as people have been saying, I think. Cast animation time's like, okay, whatever. But the base damage decreased by 12 is a huge amount for base damage to be decreased by. However, in terms of, usually she's landed in a 2v1 scenario with a support against, or even 3v1, against an enemy offlaner. Any competent last hitter, carry player, will be able to get the last hits anyway. It doesn't matter if you have like 40 base damage, they're going to get them. The big issue is, though, she's not going to be able to kill people in the offlane as easily. She was so good as a safe laner simply because once the enemy offlaner tries to use their escape mechanism, say Darkseer Sprint, Wind Run, just immediately throw the net out and then start attacking them. With the 12 base damage decrease, she won't be able to deal quite as much damage and be able to kill people quite as much. So, anyway. Oh, I meant to mention this when I was talking about Darkseer. You can't vacuum people who are slept anymore. You can't do it. Yeah, that's what the vacuum change was. So, thank you, Ice Frog. That was needed because starting, like, the way it works right now, obviously Navi's able to do it, but nobody else has really figured out how to beat a Naga Siren DS. And that's really what the big change on the Darkseer was for. If I said that you could vacuum BKB people, I lied because you can't. Sorry, it's kind of late at night where I am. Kind of losing it, but I'm going to power through, and we're almost done. So, Necrolite. Look for him to... Oh, Nyx, nice buff. Doesn't really matter. He still won't be played. Necrolite. This is big. This is huge. Here's why. Necrolite has always been torn between needing to make mana regen, needing to make HP regen, and needing to make pure tankability. So, the way Sadist has been changed is that now you do not need to make HP regen, and you do not need to make mana regen. And what this means is you can go for the pure tank items, you can go for the pipe, you can go for the mech, and you don't have to worry about mana regen. All you really need is a soul ring to make sure your first kill gets up from the Reaper site, and once you got that first kill up from the Reaper site, feel free to go nuts. So, anyway, 10 mana regen per second and 4 HP regen a second. Say you get 2 kills in a fight, it lasts for 6 seconds. Say that's 12 seconds of 10 mana regen per second, which is a lot. Or, oh no, my math is going fuzzy. But either way, you're going to get basically 24 HP healed per kill and 60 mana healed per kill. And the best thing is it's not instant, it's regeneration. So the way Necrolite works is extended fights are good for him. So it's not like instant heal and then you're done. It keeps going, which is why the heal over time and mana regen over time are nice. This is so cool. The fact is, basically, having it not be instant but over time is a big buff. Oh, forgot to mention, 10 times the bonus for hero kills. Yeah, it's a big deal. I am aware that you only get the 10 times buff for levels 1, 2, and 3. So let me restate. Basically, you're going to heal the same amount of mana as before this patch as you will after with the Sadist change. However, at ranks 1, 2, and 3, you get the 10 times bonus for hero kills, which is really where you shine, because Necrolite needs to be pushing and attacking early. So say you get that mech up, maybe you're only level 8. Maybe you wanted to get 1 in Heartstop Aura, which you can now really do more effectively. You don't necessarily need rank 4 in Sadist anymore. Point is, a lot of times you'll end up having to push towers before you get your max Sadist, which means it's going to be brutal to regen your mana, but now it's not nearly as bad. As long as you get that soul ring or mana boots, whatever, into the Reaper site, you'll be good to go. Okie doke. This is big. Nerubian Assassin. Okay. Basically, short anecdote. Every month, I get basically a hero of the month that I just play nonstop and I love, and then I move on. Right now, for me, that hero is Nyx Assassin. In Dota 1, he's known as Nerubian Assassin. I think that he is amazing and underrated. And honestly, the reason why is, one, his whole assassin thing means that he's able to pick off Tinkers and Enigmas. Basically, big teamfight heroes who like to sit in the back. But that's not it. The big thing that I've been really relying on him for is his Spike Carapace. It's absolutely amazing. It lets you win lanes that you would think that Nerubian Assassin would get slammed in. Like, you can win lanes that you would not think that you're able to win. And you can win them a lot of lanes with it. So, point is, Spike Carapace was really good when it only reflected one instance of damage. Now it does one for everybody. That's right. This means that you'll be able to be in the fray a lot more successfully. Or, consider this. Situation 1. There's a team of, the enemy team of 5 is kind of grouped up. You see a lone, let's say, Witch Doctor. It's Crystal Maiden on the edge of the fight. You know that you can take her out, but then the enemy team will go on you immediately. So, before, or at least in the current patch, what you would do is you take her out, and you'd Spike Carapace, and you'd hope that your allies would go in the fight and start the fight off before they can really focus you down. Now, you know that that's going to happen. Here's why. If they all go on you, they're all going to get stunned. So, basically, what this means is, even if the entire enemy team is there, you can take out the person in the back, and then your team can go in, and you will not get picked because of Spike Carapace. Obviously, it's amazing in lane, but right now, it's going to start letting you take fights into a group of 5 people, and that's why it is so good. Okay, take this with a grain of salt, because right now he's my favorite hero, and I've been doing fairly well, at least relative to my other heroes, in pubs with him. I think that we might start seeing him, because he's so good right now. I think he's so underrated. Anyway, moving on. We're getting my man crush or bug crush, whatever it is, on Nyx out of the way. Nerubian Weaver, not a big deal. Obviously, you're going to want to build a little bit more into auto attack. If the swarm's attack rate is better, it means they'll have lower armor, which means you want to build more into autos. So, anyway, Astral Imprisonment is a little bit better. It's no big deal. Okay, we're about to get to some important stuff. So, Ogre Magi is tankier. Unrefined Fire Blast is a lot better. Bloodlust can target catapults. And you can make people go speedier at low levels. Basically, this means Ogre's better at low levels. Because you can run at people and you have more armor and you're faster and it's just, he's better at low levels. Maybe it's good to get 1 rank in Bloodlust now because of the 10%. I know a lot of people didn't. They just went for the 2 spells. But now maybe people get it at level 4. Who knows? It might change the way he's skilled a little bit. I don't think he'll be picked. Omni Knight, he's still mostly irrelevant. This isn't going to change anything. Okay. When I said that Enigma got buffed, this is it. Primal split units are now affected by Black Hole. Right now, the main counter to Enigma is Pandaren Brewmaster. You can't stop him. There is no way to stop him from interrupting your Black Hole. You just can't do it. Unless you have a BKB. But Enigmas make mech in these days, so mech into BKB is so much fun. Like, you can't just BKB rush on them unless you have like a really specific thing that you're doing. Quick anecdote. Yesterday I was in a scrim, I think. I was playing as Enigma against a Pandaren Brewmaster. What they did was they just parked him in the back of every single team fight, and I couldn't get a Black Hole off the entire game until I had BKB. And this isn't unique to this situation. You just sit Panda in the back and wait for Enigma to Black Hole, and then you stop it. Alternatively, you can initiate with Panda, do the split immediately, and then as Enigma, you just can't throw down the Black Hole until it's done. You can watch his minions, pandas, whatever, to see when he uses both abilities really back-to-back, but smart pandas will always save one of them, usually the Tornado, in order to make sure that you can't get the Black Hole off. Now you can. This is huge. Massive buffs to Enigma. Panda's going to fall off a lot, because right now his main purpose is anti-Enigma, not going to work anymore. Whew. Dear Lord. I don't know how teachers and lecturers and public speakers do this. So, Pit Lord. Currently, he was considered crap tier, then he was god tier, then he was crap tier, so he's been remade and made and remade again, so this is this version of Pit Lord. You can now cancel the ult, which is nice. It's whatever. Expulsion finally got replaced. Finally. Here's the deal. He's got this new thing called Atrophy Aura. And this means that your attack damage is going to go way, way down. And your basically your allies' damage is going to go up the more you kill stuff. So if you AoE basically enemy creeps down, Makes your attack damage go up. Here's what this does, and I'll tell you why it synergizes with his ult. Point 1. When you're attacking a tier 3 with this Pit Lord, basically you're going to kill the large enemy waves that are spawning at this point, and all of a sudden you're going to get a lot of bonus damage and you're going to be able to attack the tower a lot better. Basically, he's a better pusher in that regard. Enemies don't attack as hard, your guys attack harder, you're going to be able to take the tier 3 easier. However, in the current metagame, split pushing is really, really good. So, say you're pushing a tier 3, say Furion's pushing your tier 3 on the other side of the map. You can now cancel Dark Rift. So, what this allows you to do is, basically, you get up big bonus damage, whatever, pushing tier 3, and say you got someone pushing your tier 3. You can throw the ult at them and make it look like you're going to go bottom to gank the person. So, at this point, they're forced with a choice. Choice 1, they TP out. They TP out, then you cancel. It's fine. Choice 2, they stay. Oh, I even thought of something better. You TP back manually. You and someone else TP back. So you go back, you take him out, say you're force them away from your tower, and then you take you and your teammates back to the push by taking you to, say, your tier 1 tower that's still up, and you get right back in it. It's a counter-split pushing ability. Sorry it took me a while to say that, but basically it's counter-split push when you're pushing tier 3. Firestorm's obviously nice. It works with Atrophy Aura, but it's no longer channeled, so that's very good. And, yeah, I think he might be picked up. I mean, some people utilize Coddle for his counter-split push. Some people utilize Wisp. I don't think we'll see him, but we might see him once in a blue moon. I know I've said that like 10 times this cast video, whatever, as a counter-split push / person who attacks tier 3 towers. Phantom Assassin, no big deal. Phantom Lancer, he's going to be better late, but he's already so good late anyway, it's not a big deal. Phoenix, okie doke. Let's go through this, because I actually forgot what this does. Fire Spirits has been reworked. Oh, it reduces enemy attack speed. Okay. So he's anti-attack speed. Now, I'm sorry, I looked at this before, but I kind of forgot. Icarus Dive is now movement is double and nearby allied units are healed, but you take more damage. So, okay, this just looks like he's turned into a bit of a support caster. And Sunray is now DPS, slowed, channeled. I don't know. I haven't played him enough in Dota 1. I really hated him in Dota 1 when I played him. I can't say if he's great or amazing or what. The biggest thing is that he can go into, I think the dive is the biggest thing. The movement and allied units are healed, but the movement is doubled. From what I am hearing, in Dota 1, you can actually go above max move speed, which is pretty dang cool. Puck. This is a nice buff. The waning rift damage. You actually used to not be able to kill an entire creep wave with both the Puck's nukes. Now you can. But Puck's biggest problem, lack of damage. Now he's got it. We won't see him anymore, but it's kind of nice that it got added. Pugna. Okay, this is the biggest one, the movement speed increase. Pugna's utility, or what he brings to the middle lane as a mid laner, is Nether Blast. However, you have to be able to hit it. If you're faster than people, you can run up to them and you can blast them, and they will take damage from it. So basically, just by virtue of being faster than people as Pugna, you're going to be able to get it off. That is, your Nether Blast off. At least some of the time. So this is really buffing his mid lane. However, Pugna is also so position reliant. You need a 4-staff for the most part. Sometimes people get BKB, whatever. Point is, you got to be in the right spot at the right time. Having movement speed buff is the way to do it. Pugna can win room control so easily with this. Like, you push the lane, you can slow them, you get to the room fast. Verdict, he's not going to be played. But he's a lot better. Okay, this is cool. Static Link no longer breaks if Razor loses vision of the target. Someone is going... I'm sure that there's... The fact that this is bolded means that it's important. I can't think of why it's really important right now, except for against Invis heroes. Maybe... I haven't tried this out in Dota 1, but if you link someone, who's invis, it stays with them, so you see where the invis person is. I don't know, maybe it's that, but you can get BKB people now. It says, hang on, where did I read this? Static Link can now target magic immune. It could before via ground seeking, but now you don't have to do that. Apparently, actually no, you were able to follow invis people anyway. It's if you get high grounded. So it's basically you can't get high grounded anymore. Yeah, now that I'm thinking of this. You just don't have to worry about being juked. And what that means is you can auto-attack people more. Because a lot of times you're worried about getting juked with the auto-attack, so now you can just auto-attack them more. It's whatever, you're juked, whatever. Rubik movement speed decreased. This is a nice change. Rubik is obviously incredibly positionally dependent. Why this is such a big deal is there's really two builds that people are doing, and right now people really favor one. For mid lane Rubik, what you can do is you can do like a phase Yule's Dagger build, or you can do, I think it's more standard right now, is the Mana Boots 4-staff Blink Dagger build, which obviously is going to cover this nerf. It's like, whatever. When you have that much mobility, who cares? However, this is a big nerf to support Rubik, because it's so hard to steal spells when you don't have a 4-staff and Dagger. And when you're a support Rubik, you're probably not going to have them. So, honestly, I think this is Rubik kind of getting pushed in the direction of, hey, you should go solo mid, because you're not going to get the good steals off if you don't. Anyway, this is the other one, the Fade Bolt bounce AoE decreased. It's really hard to dodge Fade Bolt from mid lane. Like, it's just hard to do. You have to stand way off to the side if you want to do it. It's really hard to deal with. I can't do it all the time. Nobody can do it all the time. And it's just an annoying spell. So what this means is basically it's easier to dodge from the mid lane, which means he's just a nerf to his mid lane. So we got nerf to his support from the movement speed and nerf to the mid lane with the Fade Bolt. Verdict, still first pick, first ban. Shadow Demon. Not a whole lot to say. He always has excess mana. This isn't going to really affect him. You never run out of mana, so... Like, you have 3 spells that you cast in a team fight. It's not a big deal. That is a support Shadow Demon. Okie doke Shadow Fiend. He's probably my favorite hero after that, if not my favorite hero. So, this is cool. This is very cool. 1. Necromastery kill count increased from 6 to 12. This means, 1. Say you die. You just get picked off at the beginning of a team fight, you get smoke ganked, and then they start the team fight. So you buy back, you TP back in, but oh no, I only have 18 souls. What am I going to do? Well, you buy back, you C-raise some kid on the head, you got 30 souls, you BKB up, and then you ult. All of a sudden, you turn that around instantly. This is really, really helps buybacks, basically, on SF. Because buybacks have always been weak on Shadow Fiend because your souls go down. But now you buy back, you get a kill, you Requiem, doesn't even matter. Okie doke. Number 2, armor reduction improved. Takedown basically increased physical DPS, but the big one, take down Roshan faster. It's going to be harder to kill him because you can take down Roshan faster, get that Aegis up. Here is the big one. You get a half a Requiem every time you die. Well, if you guys aren't god tier Shadow Fiends like me, you never die, so making fun of myself. Didn't go over that well. Anyway, point is, Shadow Fiend dies a lot. That's his issue. He just gets ganked and he dies. So, issue is now, say 2 supports are coming at you, you're in mid lane, laning against whoever. 2 supports come at you from the fog, smoke ganking you. It turns into a 3v1 situation. Say you get some raises off. You get 2 raises on both of the supports, you get a raise on the carry. They're all low, but you're dead. Well, now they're dead too. Basically, this is... While it's not going to probably stop anyone from killing him, it now means that if you kill him, you will get punished. Okay, verdict. I love this buff. Like, I like it so much. People who have seen me play Shadow Fiend are going to say it's because I die a lot, but the reason why I like it is because there needs to be some way for this hero to not die. And if you give him mobility, he's going to be overpowered. If you give him an escape, he's going to be really good. But this is a way of addressing his death issue without making him overpowered, and it's a really, really smart way to go about doing it. Props to Ice Frog. Someone buy that guy a beer. So, Silencer, still irrelevant. Nobody cares. Skeleton King. This is an early game buff. It means like if you do a drums or 4-staff build, it's going to be better to smack people. Skywrath Mage. Can't talk on him. Sorry. Slardar. big late game buffs. This is to take down the DK who just got 70 gazillion armor. Sniper still useless, Spectre still useless. Although Desolate's better, he's a little bit of a better ganker now, at least if you level into the Desolate build. You can actually kind of get away with that, maybe, but you still need Dispersion. So maybe 1 in your slow and then max into get into Desolate Dispersion, maybe, maybe not. Okay, Spirit Breaker. Holy crap, massive buffs. Basically your base strength increased by 6, damage increased by 9. You now have like 200 extra HP at level 1, and you have 15 more damage. Okay, so you now have a much, much better Charge of Darkness speed at low levels. Much better, which is good because it used to be really, really crappy. Empowering Haste no longer increases his damage. That's fine. He got other damage buffs. But the bonus aura has been rescaled to be massive, to 18%. And Greater Bash now deals damage based on your movement speed. That's where the Empowering Haste went into, basically. But the Bash duration is now a tiny, tiny bit better. That's not the big one. The big one is Greater Bash now affects magic immune units. Okay, so here's the deal on Spirit Breaker. I like him. I like to run at people in pubs like an idiot with him and then kill them. But my biggest thing on him is that he's weak early-ish. Now with his massive strength and massive damage buffs early, kind of solves that issue. 2, there's an indicator. I didn't even talk about this. I completely skipped over it. There's an indicator when you're getting charged, which means against really competent people, they see it, they start yelling in voice chat like, he's coming, And all of a sudden, you're charging into 3 TPs. If you're me, you'll try to kill the guy anyway and feed. Smart people just back off. So, basically, it's a lot easier to kill people now. It's not going to be that important and competitive because map vision means that it's going to kind of control it. But either way, massive buffs. I don't know if we'll see him. I can't say it. I can't say either way. However, I don't think he's a joke anymore. I think he's a serious contender. Okay, I wanted to talk about him more, but it was getting really on a tangent. So, don't expect him to be picked, but expect him to suck less. Oh, I wanted to talk about his skill build. Expect probably like 1 in Empowering Haste, 1 in Bash, max the Charge of Darkness. Storm Spirit. This is really good. Okay. Static Remnant cooldown decreased from 4 to 3.5. Why does that seem important? Because it looks like nothing. Here's the deal. The most important part, I think, of transitioning from a mid-level storm to a high-level storm, which I am not, is that you don't waste overloads. It's the most important thing. You do not waste overload charges. So, what this allows you to do is spam Remnant more frequently, which gives you more charges. But if you have more charges and you don't have the attack speed, what are you going to do with it? This means if you want to do the Mana Boots Bloodstone build, you're already going to waste charges. And now you're going to waste even more charges. So what this does is this makes a Silent Stick build that much better, because going into Silent Stick means you got more attack speed, means that you can actually kill people with your overloads. I talked with the best Storm player who I personally know about this. He agrees it's a buff to Silent Stick. This was interesting. I did not think that Sven was going to go in this direction. Ice Rod buffed all his carry stuff. I was really sure that Cleave was going to be remade and just like scrapped into another skill. However, AoE's bigger on Cleave, the damage is way up, God Strength bonus is way up late game, and Warcry armor goes up also. However, I am a little bit disappointed. I do love jungling Sven in pubs. You can't do it quite as well anymore with the early game nerf to Cleave, but he is going to be much better late game.